How's everyone doing? So, Strength Chat episode 30, and I have a very special guest lined up. He's actually my coach, Stephen Screamer Manuel. How are you doing, sir?
How's it going, buddy? All right.
I'm not so bad. What have you been up to?
Well, I told you before we started recording properly, I've just gotten back from my first MMA session in about 5 or 6 weeks. I did something to my ribs. I don't know what it was yet because, like, basically what happens is if you go to A&E with a rib issue, basically they check your lungs, and if your breathing's not being effective, they won't X-ray you.
Right.
So, like, I have no idea what happened. It was pretty bad because I couldn't twist for like 3 weeks. When I was actually getting taken down, I could still feel it hurting a little bit when I was landing on it and things. So like, it's still not totally right, but mate, I just had to get back doing something. Like, I've missed it so much. Like, so much fun that session was. But like I told you before as well, because I've been out of it for so long, all I've ended up doing is just taking all the skin off my toes, trying to shoot takedowns and doing it wrong. So I'll have to get a few more sessions in and just get all that. Like, it's just like that, those little bits, like, they're the first things to go, the little finer details that you don't do as much once you get into it.
Yeah.
I reckon another two or 3 weeks and I'll hopefully have the skin back on my toes because I'll just keep burning it all the time.
That's a bonus. So, obviously, my coach took me, helped me compete in the, when did I compete? July? Can't remember now. It was only so helped me coach me up until there, and it's been the first competition that I'd done for a while. So the first question for you is, when was your first competition, and how did you get into powerlifting?
Oh, jeez, right, here we go. Right, this is gonna sound like I'm bragging, right? But I'm honestly not. I think it was April 2006. That sounds about right. April 2006, I think it was, right? So I was 17. I was playing American football at the time.
Right.
In Gateshead. Basically, so I was playing American football at Gateshead Stadium, and there was also a powerlifting club at Gateshead, like in the Gateshead Stadium as well.
Yeah.
So basically, like, one of the lads who trained powerlifting, he saw us walking down the corridor with my gear on. And he was like, bloody hell, we'll get you powerlifting. I just laughed it off, you know, and then, like, I actually saw him training a couple of weeks later. And, like, so I was allowed to go and use the gym for £1 because I was in college there.
Yeah.
So, like, so I would go at the gym at about 4 o'clock when I finished college. They would start at about 5, so, like, the end of my session was the start of their session.
Right.
Just, like, sat around, watched them warm up a little bit. And then eventually, after a couple of weeks, I finally got the courage to go over and ask if I could, like, sort of join in. That's what they were doing and everything.
Right.
I think it was about 6 weeks later. It was my first competition. And I think I broke, like, every British under-18 record, a few of the under 20 records, a few of the under 23 records. I got, like, 10 records that day.
Right.
And I was just hooked from there. But back in the day, you could actually set British records at regional comps.
Right, okay. Right.
Like, it wasn't one of those where you had to do it at a British, you could do it anywhere.
Yeah.
Which I personally prefer, but it was the dirty drug cheats who were just, like, making sure that they were breaking records at regionals, knowing they wouldn't get tested, and then not go.
Yeah.
I think that was the main reason behind changing the rules like that.
Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't. I thought it was just me that just got said, oh yeah, you look like you can do powerlifting. You just go and give it a go.
Yeah.
The guy I worked with, I remember walking into work and walking to the staff room, and he basically gave me a 12-week program and went, there you go, you're competing in 12 weeks. I was like, all right, I'll give that a go. But then from there, as soon as you compete, like you said, you're hooked. Basically, you just want to do more and more.
That's it.
So you said it was about 6 weeks until your first competition.
It was something.
Your training, how does training change leading up to a competition, especially from doing that very first one? Or how would you go about prepping someone like for me leading up to a competition?
Right. So, I mean, I hope what I'm about to say is actually sort of like resonates with you. I mean, honestly, for me, it's really about not making too many big changes leading into it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the classic sort of like, right, I'm going to do a load of volume, then I'm going to peak by dropping my volume right into the competition.
Yeah.
I don't do much of that.
Mm.
I don't do much of that at all. You get like the last week where you've got reduced volume and that's about it.
Yeah.
But that works because I always have you hitting heavy singles. So the heavy singles are there to basically like, that's like for me, if you're a 100-meter sprinter, you don't train by doing 800 meters.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to get you ready to do one rep, having you go sets of 5s, sets of 8s, sets of 3s even, isn't like, it's not getting that direct practice what you need.
Yeah.
So I always like hitting singles for that reason. So that's your specific stuff. And then, so like, and going back to the sprinter analogy, you do need to get some like distance work in there, but you might want to go maybe only 200 meters or maybe 3 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where your reps come in. That's what your volume work is.
Mm-hmm.
So we're practicing. So we're practicing the skill of powerlifting by hitting singles. And then we're building up that volume or the conditioning so that you can keep it going, so you can prolong that for all the time. And then, as I say, the only thing that we did in that final week, we just got rid of that volume pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Singles 7 days out. Hit your hit your openers about 7 days out, 6 days out. Hit your final warm-ups 3 or 4 days out. And then go and do the damn thing and get PBs all over the shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deadlift though, you bastard.
Say again, sorry.
You deadlift though, you greedy bastard. Time for the two.
I suppose it's one of those things that powerlifting, you can only get better at the sport of powerlifting if you do like squat, bench, and deadlift. You have to be specific to that. I think the only variations that you programmed for me were pause squats and spot or bench. They help. They let me spend a little bit more time in the places that I probably felt the most uncomfortable in the 3 lifts. But just staying more specific as you can, I think.
That's the thing. Like, so if you showed me that you didn't have any specific weaknesses positionally, you would have just always had squats, always had bench, always had deadlift.
Yeah.
But it never works out that way. There's always going to be a weakness. We'll work on one weakness, correct one, and then something else will pop up.
Yeah. What do you think of coaches that throw in sort of like loads of variations? Do you think is that just them showing off, or what do you think of that?
I do actually think it comes from a little bit of showing off, but I don't think it is showing off. I think what it comes about from is a little bit of insecurity.
Right.
Like they wanna show that they're a good coach, but they're like, it's one of two things. They want to show they're a good coach, and they're not confident that they're a good coach. So they think, right, but if I just show that I know all these exercises, people will think that I'm good, or they actually think that they are good.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to show off. It's one of those two things.
Right.
But I'm not a big fan of that personally because, like, let's say you've got an issue with your squat. We don't know what an issue is, but there's an issue with your squat, right? Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So then, let's say we're going to squat 3 days a week, and we've got a different variation every session. We do that for 4 weeks, and your squat improves. So let's say we go competition squat, 3 count pause squat, and a tempo squat. 3 seconds down, nothing in the hole, up quick, something like that, right? Yeah. But your squat gets better, that's good. But what caused it to get better? There's too much variation.
Yeah.
Always that particular combination of exercises got you better. But could we have gotten you better getting rid of one of those variations? You know, like, I want to try and get you better off the least amount of effort possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one reason behind it. Also, as well, I'm a big believer in sort of just not using all your tools on your tool belt at once. Okay, so like supplements is a good way of describing this kind of analogy where, like, you know, like the first time you take, in fact, no, we'll go controversial. Yeah. PEDs, right? First time you take shit like that, you're going to get the best gains out of it.
Yeah.
And then the more you use it, the less you'll get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same sort of thing. The longer we can take to reintroduce a new movement, I think the better off we'll be in the long run.
Right.
So if we can just do, so you've got to do your comp squats. You have to do your comp squats because you can't get out of the habit of that rebound out of the hole. You have to have that pretty much inexclusively, unless your form is absolutely shocking. So if your form's shocking, I'd go no comp squats and I would do things that would challenge where the form's breaking down, and I'd have that in for a period of weeks. But the view would be to get you doing your comp squats as soon as possible so we can keep them going all the way. But then if we do pause squats and then we absolutely milk all the progress out of pause squats, then we've got tempo squats, we've got squat down, squat back up, squat back down, squat back up, all that rest pause shit. We've got so many other variations we can use to then kickstart that progress again. But if we're using all of them at once, we don't know where the improvement's coming from. And we also I believe that we limit the ceiling by bringing in too many variations.
Yeah, I think with that, I know from my point of view, if there's too much going on, you end up going from, like, I quite like the fact that I have three things that I do in a session, which might be a comp squat, another variation, and then a push or a pull or something like that. There's sometimes, if a session goes on too long, I think as a person who's being trained, you just think, fed up. I'm fed up. I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, I only have an ADS program, squat, bench, and deadlift. I don't do any variations for the powerlifting club, but I'll point in the direction of what variations might help them. And it's like, oh, bloody hell, that's pretty simple what you put on there. And it's like, I want you to get better at squat, benching, and deadlifting. You've got plenty of time to go and do curls and stuff like that, you know, in your own time. But for the hour that you're with me, I want you focusing on squat, bench, and deadlift. That's
the way to do it. And if you've only got an hour with them, that's limited time. So you're right in doing that. You 100% are right in doing that. Like, there's no point in wasting time doing lat pull downs and shit like that when you've only got an hour with them. If you had 3 hours with them, fair enough.
Yeah.
Even then, still, I'd be like, go and do all that fluff by yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can't have it as well where people get reliant on you. You can't have it. So, like, if you say, right, we're doing the main lift for this hour, and then you've got to go and do this, this, and this in your own time, or whatever you want in your own time, that's good because it's giving them a little bit of sort of ownership on their own training as well. Yeah. And they'll feel the need, like obviously at some point, clients are probably going to leave and things like that. Like, things are going to happen in life. It could be financial circumstances. There could be moving somewhere. And it's really important, in my opinion, like, that they don't need you every single time. Yeah. So it's important that you really make sure that they're learning from the process as well, so that when the time comes that they do need to move on, or they feel confident enough to move on, because I think that's a sign of a good coach, is saying, like, look, I don't think you need any more, like, PT. I think you should obviously keep coming to the club and all that sort of stuff, because that's fine, but, you know, go and just learn for yourself. Go and fuck up, make a few mistakes.
Yeah. I think it's a bit like school. Obviously, teachers will teach you, but then at some point you've got to leave school and go off into the big wide world.
Absolutely. Go and become an adult.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll get there. Chatting about prepping for a competition, do you have some people will say, a little bit like when I was giving my first program for my first powerlifting competition, right, that's 12 weeks, going to give you 12 weeks to prep for it. Is it set in stone how long you prep someone for a competition?
Not really. I like trying to keep people as ready as possible. Like, obviously, I don't want anybody to say, oh, I've like enter a competition in 2 weeks' time. I don't want that happening. But if that was to happen, I'm pretty confident a lot of the people who I do train with the way I train them would be ready for it, as long as they were obviously taking care of nutrition and all that sort of stuff outside of it. Like, they weren't like miles away from the weight class that they were looking at competing and things like that. But yeah, I mean, the longer you've got, the better you've got, I suppose, because I don't really I think once you've sort of gotten used to the competition process, I don't really think you need to compete that often. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes I made towards the end, where like I didn't really like the training that much towards the end. I liked the competing. So in order to keep me training, I just entered comps all over the fucking shop, and it just burned me out. But I do like that for new people. So like in your first year or two, if you can do as many competitions as possible, like between like 6 and 10 weeks or whatever between competitions, it's really good because it'll get rid of all that anxiety. You'll understand like the little like sort of the things that aren't that important, but like they can be as you get more competitive, like lot numbers, just the whole weighing in process, like understanding what to eat, when to start warming up and all that sort of stuff. Like, too many people think about what numbers they want on the bar on that third attempt, and they totally just ignore the fact that they need to learn how to compete.
Yeah.
You know? So the more you can compete in the first year or two, the better off you're going to be. But then after that, I'd recommend competing as little as possible.
Yeah.
But then it really will become doing your regional comp, qualifying for the national competition, and then if you win the national competition, doing worlds. I would, if I was to go back, I'd try and do 3 comps a year max.
Yeah. Would that be for the recovery reasons as well for that?
Yeah, just for the physical recovery, and also as well, it just means like when people are getting, if people are getting tired and things, like rather than just having a week off and then getting back into another competition, we can just be like, right, let's just do like 3 or 4 weeks of just fluff, just get you recovering, you know. We'll do a little bit of light squat, we'll do a little bit of light competition lifts, so you're still getting that movement in, but you're not pushing those. And we'll just train like a bodybuilder for a few weeks and just, you know, just have a nice little switch up. Little pump, disco pump on a Friday night.
So I've found that when people do the first competition, like you say, getting in and getting another one and you know, getting a little bit of consistency and learning how to compete. For someone who's never competed before, so there's a couple of people who are eyeing up going into a competition. So I've said to a couple of people there'll be a Yorkshire North East competition in November, which would be a good target. Would you set a standard amount? Would you set a standard template for someone who's just a beginner, or would you just be like, right, we're training. Here's 6 weeks. We're gonna do a little bit more competition prep. Or how would you go about for a complete beginner leading up to their first competition?
I wouldn't really change too much, to be perfectly honest with you. With beginner, I'd probably likely avoid the singles, and I'd probably hit it with more like triples. Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit lighter, but it's still tough, and you can get a lot of good information from triples as well. So like, we have you hitting a single at 8, so like that's going to be a little bit above what your opener is going to be.
Yeah.
So then if we get you hitting like a triple at 9 with like 1 rep left in the tank, you can probably open up on that really comfortably, and it's going to be a weight that you've hit a lot. So there'll be no kind of like, there'll be no lack of confidence coming into a weight that you've hit every week for the last 6 weeks for 3 reps when you've only got 1. So that's the kind of thing I'd go with that. Yeah, it's just a case of making sure that like you don't want to be going too heavy with really, really new people, just because like it's the load on the spine and things like that I want to try and avoid, and you don't want people like struggling too much.
Yeah.
Much easier to struggle on a heavy single than it is a heavy triple. Mm-hmm. So like if you're gonna hit a heavy triple, your first 2 reps should be pretty good, and it's gonna be the third one that's gonna be the one that maybe might not be. Mm-hmm. But if you've only 1 rep and you really sort of like, and if you're trying to Billy Big Bollocks it and put a little bit too much on there, and he's going out of position, that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. Bit of a booster for him.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's always the same. Like for some reason, pretty much every new person that comes along, like I don't know what you, I don't know if you're like, I don't know if you've heard this a lot, but I always hear like, I just don't want to make a tit out of myself. Like, you know, like, I don't want anybody to laugh at me. Like, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
The people in the audience, most of them are only there because they know somebody else competing. They don't give a shit.
Yeah. Or they're heavier and they want to compete on, and they're waiting to compete on the afternoon, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I've found is that, yeah, it doesn't matter whether, you know, it's your very first competition or you're challenging for a national qualification or anything like that. Everyone's just there, just want to see people lift weight, just want to see people push for it. I've never had anyone, I just don't think it's the type of sport where it's like that. Everyone wants to see everyone get stronger and fight for that weight. It's not a case of, oh well, yeah, he's stronger than me. There's always someone stronger out there. But you've just got to, you can get stronger and keep.
That's it. 100%, mate. 100%. Like, I think the biggest challenge that you've got with younger and newer people is just keeping them reined in.
Yeah.
Keeping them reined in. Like, it's just like, it's so easy to get ahead of yourself. And if you're going to be a yes man who's going to be like, oh yeah, you can definitely do all this, you're kind of like, you're keeping them motivated at that time, but the second something goes wrong, it can be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to just keep people reined in and just make sure that, like, you know, like, it's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows. You're going to have to go through some hard training. You're going to have periods where you're not going to get PBs for a while.
Yeah.
You know, like, powerlifting's, like, it's an amazing sport, but at the same time, it can also be the death of you, because at the start, it's a sport of diminishing return. So at the start, you have to work a little to improve a lot.
Yeah.
But then the better you get, you've got to work a lot to improve a little.
Yeah, yeah.
When you get to that point, that's when you're going to see who the people who are actually going to do something in the sport are. Because as soon as you've got to start actually working for those PBs, that's when a lot of people drop off and they don't like it.
Yeah. It's just about being patient. I mean, there's a couple of people in the powerlifting club. They've only been maybe in about 3-4 months. Oh, my bench, I've not upped my bench for like 2 weeks. It's like,
oh, you. Who are you? You know why? Right. The person who said that can go and piss off, right? I got stuck. I hit my first ever 200 kilo bench in training. Forget what year it was. And then I didn't hit it again in training or a competition until 2 years later.
Wow. That is patience right there.
You have to be willing to do that. It was frustrating. I hated every second of benching for a good few years. But you've got to just find a way and get it done.
Yeah. That's why I say, you know, world records are broken by, you know, one or 2 kilos. And when you're looking at the percentage wise, you know, a 2.5 kilo PB is, you know, quite a small percentage, but you know, at that weight, you know, at the top end that you're lifting, the people who wait years, like you've said there, 2 years on a bench, like, you know, it's got to be a little bit of patience. But I've got to sometimes stop myself from laughing when they say, "Oh, I've not upped it a little bit for 2 weeks." A little bit, like, in the grand scheme of things, you know, it might be a month down the line as beginners, you'll hit it again. It'll increase, you know. Just starting out. So you mentioned a little bit about triples and singles openers and that sort of stuff leading up to a competition. How much how do you go about setting people's openers and attempts based on their training?
So I go off the previous PBs. Your single at 8 is going to be about 92-93% of whatever your PB is. But then, obviously, if in training, if you have a really good response to whatever I'm setting you, and that single at 8 starts to creep up, there, and it just looks like you guarantee that you're going to beat your PB, we just adjust from there. So, like, if I multiply your PB by 0.93, that's going to give you your at 8. And then if that comes up 10K, if I divide that number, if I divide that number by 0.93, we'll get your estimated 1 RM and we can plan the attempts from there.
Yeah.
So your opener is usually going to be about 90-ish%. Then you're probably going to go about 96% for your second attempt. And then we're going to try and get as much as we can on that third attempt. But as you know, I'm just a big fan of 2.5 every time.
Yeah.
If you don't get, as long as you don't get bored of that approach, it's a great approach.
Yeah. PBs at the end of the day, and like when me and you have been messaging, I'd rather take a PB than fall just short.
100%, mate.
With that, so you see a lot of people set their openers a little bit too high, or when you're watching people compete, their openers just look too heavy. How do you manage that, or why do you think that happens? Is it just they're being a little bit too greedy?
I think it comes from people worrying. It's a few things. I think one of the things we already mentioned is them sort of not wanting to look stupid and wanting to lift as much weight as possible.
Yeah.
I think it's them sort of like trying to be as close to the third number as possible. Like thinking like they don't want to take big jumps leading into it, but not understanding that that's actually saving energy and making sure that you're moving well leading into the third attempt. Also as well, if you have a hard opener and then you've got your second attempt and you try and go up, it might only be a 5K jump. But if your opener was hard, you're not going to be that confident going into your next attempt.
Yeah.
If you go a bit lighter, absolutely smoke it. There'll be nothing but confidence going into your second attempt. And then the second attempt should be something that you should not smoke, but it should go comfortably. So then so you're trying to set yourself up for the most weight on the third attempt as possible. And you need to do that by being confident going into it, but also by not wasting energy.
Yeah.
So if you're starting off way too heavy, you really are giving yourself a lot of work to do to get there.
Yeah. And as well, it might, if you start up doing that on squats, I can imagine it will just screw you up for the rest of the days. And I think that's one thing that people...
This way as well. If you think about it this way as well, if my opener, so let's say I'm getting you ready to squat, let's say 255 for your next competition, right? So let's say, what did we open you up at for the last one, sorry?
227, I think it was.
27.5, right? Let's just say we go 230 there, right? So last warm-up might be 220 at most, 200 before that or whatever. But if my opener is going up 10 or 15 kilos, that means you're going to have even heavier warm-ups as well. So it's like the whole thing, you're just wasting more energy to get it into that last one. Whereas your opener, you shouldn't have felt like you've done any work really before that. It should all just be nice, routine, textbook lifts, no issue whatsoever. And then again, it's all about confidence and just energy conservation.
Just getting a score on the board, isn't it? Just ticking that.
Exactly.
So as I mentioned there about some people can have their opener set a little bit too high. What common mistakes do you see people making at competitions?
Oh, the biggest one, not listening to commands.
Yeah.
Not listening to the command. You always see it with people's first competitions. It's a really, really easy mistake to make. Sometimes it's just you have a complete brain fart and you don't know what's going on at that point in time. Other times, it's just you haven't done enough practice in training.
Yeah.
And if you train by yourself, it's hard to get that practice, but you can still try and visualize it as much as you can. But it's always a good idea for your last 2 weeks minimum, but 3 or 4 weeks before the competition, just do all your heavy stuff with the commands. That's always a good thing doing. And it doesn't even have to be, you haven't even got to do the singles like that. You could just do it for your first rep.
Yeah.
So if you've got a set of 5, just do the whole thing, squat, and then just get them to do, so let him go squat, do his 5 reps, and then go rack. Yeah. Or you could do it after the first rep and then get them to finish off his set, which doesn't make that much sense, but it still kind of does. It's just about being as prepared as possible. So it's definitely that. Another thing is cutting weight. You don't need to cut weight until you're competitive. So there's a difference between cutting weight and losing weight. If you're using powerlifting training as part of like some kind of a fat loss plan, then absolutely keep that going into the competition, because if that's your main goal, there's no reason why you should waste any time not doing that. So, but then when people are actually trying to sort of sweat out and really extreme diet in those last few weeks for your first competition, man, that's just ridiculous doing that. Like, you're gonna like, oh, and when people are doing it just to improve the Wilks score, oh my, have a word with yourself, man.
That's one thing that I've found when I say to people out competing, oh, what weight class would it be? I ain't bothered what weight class you're in.
No. What do you weigh right now?
Yeah.
That's your weight class. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you could be like me, where you've got to try and get another 7 kilo, put another 7 kilo.
Great. That's a great thing to be in that though. Because like, you can take your time doing that, and you'll know if you put on 7K between now and the British, not very much of that muscle, if any.
Well, I'd like to think it's some of it with me.
You can think as much as you want.
So, is there any other mistakes that you found common mistakes that you found?
I think. It's not so much a mistake, but foods. People always ask me like, what should I eat on the competition and stuff, and it's just like, whatever you like.
Yeah.
There's no magic bit of food that you're gonna have that's gonna get you any extra weight on the bar, and even if there was, it'd be minimal, and it wouldn't be worth the risk of sort of like upsetting your guts by eating something that's completely new that you're not used to digesting. You know what I mean? Just whatever you like to eat is whatever you like to eat, and just go for it. Always bring in plenty with you as well. Bring more than what you think you're gonna need, because you don't know what's gonna happen. Like, there could be delays on the day. Anything could happen. Like, you don't, like, sometimes I've had it where like there's been like 4 groups and me thinking there's only going to be 3. So then that extends things even further. So you do need a little bit more food when that happens. Yeah, it really is just like the biggest mistake. And as general as this is, it's just not being prepared.
Yeah.
You want to make sure there's no stones unturned. Everything's right. Now, what are you doing? I'm on an interview. Bloody hell!
Come here up here.
Do that, you know. Shut this off! My word, cut that out, will you?
So to round up then, do you have any top tips or words of wisdom for any people, or new powerlifters or people who have been powerlifting for a while? Do you have any top tips or words of wisdom for competing or just powerlifting in general?
Let's have a look. Right, don't get ahead of yourself. So just because you increased your squat by 20k in the first few months, it's not always going to go like that. Expect diminishing returns. Like I said at the start, like you can improve a lot of a little bit of work at the start, but you have to be aware that once you get to a point where those numbers are actually getting higher, you're going to have to put a lot more work in than what you normally do to get a lot less out of it in terms of the improvement. That's definitely something worth considering. Again, like if you compete 3 or 4 times in a year and you add 2.5k to your PB every time, every lift, every time, that's 7.5k a comp, and it'd be 22.5 or 30k a year. That's a really good return.
Yeah,
that's a really good return. And I'm a big believer in leaving plenty on the tank on your 3rd attempt as well. I said that to you a lot of times, didn't I?
Yeah.
The more you can leave in the tank, the more it's going to do for your confidence, because you've hit a PB and you're going to hit another rep. That's always a good place to be.
Yeah.
Also, as well, I just think it just prolongs that ceiling a little bit. The closer you get to completely maxing out every single time, I do think you chip a little bit off that ceiling every time. not just from the confidence standpoint, but from a physical standpoint as well. Like, I think you've only got so many grinders in the tank in your lifetime.
Right.
And you want to be saving those grinders for when the count, when you're at internationals, when you're head to head on your final deadlift for a British title, all that sort of stuff. That's when they count. If you're trying to max out at your regional, who cares?
Yeah.
The regional, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get yourself for the British, get used to all that, and it's absolutely fine to be top 5 in the British, but like, if you're really trying to work hard to be top 10 in a division, like, and then you're not even thinking about going to the British and getting all that sort of like, getting that competitive experience, because there's a difference between competing at the British and there is in a regional, which you're going to find out in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So even though you're not going to be pushing for anything necessarily, you're probably still going to be a bit more nervous because you're competing against the best of the best.
Yeah.
You know, and like, there's no reason why in a few years' time you can't be pushing for those sorts of things, but just don't go in there trying to impress everybody with a 10 kilo PB on all these lifts, because the only person that matters to is you.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what powerlifting forget sometimes. It is just about, you know, you doing it for yourself. Like, you know, for me, for the British, I just want to go and experience. And to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing some absolute mental weights be lifted, and I'm like, that's pretty.
Yeah. And that's the best thing about going to the British as well. Like, I don't like when people say, I'm not going to win this competition, so I'm not going to go. Like, you shouldn't be in it for that. It's about beating yourself. It's not about beating other people. It's about beating yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to get so much experience just from watching the likes of Tony Cliff and George lifting all these big monstrous weights, having conversations with these guys, finding out how they train. Like, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to be like if you had a suggestion based off what somebody said, if I thought there might be something to it, I'd be happy to give it a go. So you go, and obviously you're a coach as well, so go and broaden your knowledge. That's what it's all about. You know, you're not going to get anywhere sticking to the same routine all the time.
Yeah.
You have to have more tools on that tool belt to maximize your potential. So, you know, you go have all these conversations with all these different great lifters. You'll make some really good friends. And if the time comes that we can get you in the national team, you're not going in there a complete, like, sort of newbie. You've already been speaking to all these lads and they'll welcome you in.
Yeah.
You know, just go and enjoy it. That's the most important thing. Just enjoy it. Don't get wrapped up on all the external rewards, like the medals and all that, and the money, even though there's fuck all in it. Don't get wrapped up in all that sort of stuff. It's all about the internal motivators, like how it feels getting that PB, how it feels helping your guy get that PB. That's what matters. Yeah. None of the medals matter at all. And I wish I knew that a few years ago.
Yeah. So, I think that was quite a nice way to round this interview off, really. So if anyone has any questions for you or want to get in contact with you for coaching or anything like that, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you and contact you?
You can just drop me an email. It's stephen.manuel.pt@gmail.com. I'm trying to get away from like the inquiries on like Instagram and stuff, because like there's something I learned over the weekend at the EPC from a few of the speakers there, and they were like saying it's instant messaging. So like you could just be like on a whim thinking, oh, I think I might do that, and then like you've not put any sort of thought or care into the message. So then like, you know, if you don't find out what you want to find out, it's really easy to discard it and everything. But if there's an email, like you put a bit more care into an email and like you really realize what it means to you, like why you do want to do all of this. Mm-hmm. So I do prefer people to email me now.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it. Stephen.manuel.pt@gmail.com. And you know, like I'll try and sort of be as accommodating as possible with everything. So at the start with us, like you had a nightmare trying to finish off some of the sessions, didn't you?
I was like, whoo.
Yeah. At least you were gonna improve though.
Yeah. Finished with 250, so I can thank you for that. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, we did. we did there was just make simple changes. Like I think we just dropped the loads a little bit, maybe just got you doing a few less sets a session, and then just building things up. You know, like I'm not a big fan of like cookie cutter programs and all that and everything. But most of my guys start off with a really similar program, but then depending on what I see and what feedback I get, they branch off into completely different directions every time. Yeah. So I think it's fine to start with a cookie cutter program, but you have to know how to progress that program, and I think that's where coaching comes in.
Yeah. So I could have probably carried on talking for a little bit longer, but I think I'm gonna have to go to work now. It was absolutely great chatting to you. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me. I hope everyone listening enjoyed that as much as I did. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next week.
No worries, bud. Anytime you need me, just give it a shout. All right, bud.